Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers is a weekly program designed to answer all your questions, including the ones you didn't even know you had, and to clarify the endless debates around the wonderful and fascinating world of sexuality. Join us for real talk about sex from two experts in the field. Richard and Larry Siegel have over 50 years of experience as sex therapists, educators, counselors, and researchers. The Siegel brothers are recognized around the world as trainers of medical and mental health professionals.
Hello, and welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers. My name is Dr. Richard Siegel. I'm a certified sex therapist.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
And still my awesome big brother.
You know it's my favorite role.
We are very pleased to have you join us this evening. Of course, every evening is a good time for sex talk, but this is our time. We meet every Friday at 7 to talk about sexual health, sex in the news, men's roles in sexual health.
Families, politics.
Healthy sexuality is more than just plumbing lessons and debates about sex ed.
Exactly.
So we advocate for ongoing sex talk because sexuality is a part of being a human being. Mm-hmm. No one is excused.
That's right. And there's no aspect of our lives that only happens once. So like all other important things in our life, these are things we develop. They happen over time. We do these throughout our lives. And that's really the place that sexuality has, throughout our lives. It begins before we're ever born, and it's not going to end until we die. So we really better get a handle on this sometime soon.
Yes, particularly in the United States, supposedly the greatest country in the world, we lag so far behind in even a basic comfort, no less an understanding with what sexuality education is,
Absolutely.
What it should be, what it means to raise sexually healthy young people.
Mm-hmm. And if you
we suffer for
exactly, and if you are the parents and the educators and the adults and reasonable people that we like to think you are, then please make a point of talking to your kids about that. Advocate for your schools to talk about that. When Ricky was talking about the lack of sex education we have in this school, this is not just a little sort of minor detail. Right? The fact that we've now allowed porn to be a de facto sex educator. How many of you are comfortable with the idea that your kids are learning all about sex and sexuality from watching porn online? I don't think that's really the standard you want your kids to follow.
Right. I can't imagine anyone saying that they want their kids learning about sex.
That's right. I want to be at that PTA meeting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if everyone else passes, if parents pass it off on the schools and the schools pass it off because it's too hot button and too political and it just simply doesn't get done.
That's right. And
it simply doesn't get done.
That's an underlying lesson.
As the sexuality educator's credo, right, is the teachable moment.
Right.
Always be on the lookout for the teachable moment. And there's never a shortage of them.
Exactly. And another kind of part of the sex educator's credo is, and it's not an original sex education idea, but it's an important one in that what we don't say is most dangerous.
Right.
We can't cause any kind of harm by talking to our kids, talking to people in general about sex and sexuality. Has there ever been a case of somebody who was sexually traumatized or harmed in any way by being given too much information?
By a conversation with their parent?
Exactly.
Right? Nobody contracts diseases. Nobody is victimized or assaulted by a conversation.
That's right.
But yet those are the risks. The very real risks of not having those conversations.
That's right. That's what's dangerous. And again, anybody that has kids, we were kids, right? We all were kids. We know you can't give children too much information. When they're done listening, if they have no use for it, if it's not relevant to them, even if they're sitting there for another 2 hours, nothing's getting in. They're done.
They're done.
Right? So we can't worry about that. We need to take the reins of responsibility for sexual health. We can't expect other people to do it, especially for our own kids. So this is a really important aspect that underlies everything we do with this show.
I'm Richelle Needle, co-director of Modern Sex Therapy Institutes. And Modern Sex Therapy Institutes is a continuing education provider. We provide continuing education for medical and mental health professionals around the world. And we have over 140 archived workshops on our website, so please check them out at www.modernsextherapyinstitutes.com. Also, we have a number of certification programs, including sex therapy, couples in sex therapy, LGBTQIA affirmative therapy, alternative relationships, transgender mental health care, medical sexology, sex education, and sex counselor certifications. In addition, we offer a PhD in clinical sexology. So please, again, go to our website, check out everything that we have to offer. A lot of our stuff is available solely online from the convenience of your own home or office. We do things live in 8 states and live via webinar as well.
So, if there's ever any wondering about a shortage of teachable moments, where to find topics to bring up for sex talk, open your eyes, look outside,
That's right.
Turn on a television, open a magazine or a newspaper, look at the news online.
Absolutely. Speaking of, what's happening in the news?
Let us talk about Sex in the News, our regular segment,
Mm-hmm.
because again, there's always some things going on, right? First, we do, because now the new normal is anything but, and we continue to live with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we still have to adjust to an ever-increasing life online and at home. It's important that we bring up again the importance of healthy, peaceful relationships when under a stressful situation like sheltering at home. Mm-hmm. And we can't overemphasize the importance, how troubling it is that calls to sexual assault and incest hotlines have been rapidly increasing.
Yeah, over the past 30 days, right, with this sheltering in, that has been a pretty scary development when we look at national incest, rape, and sexual abuse hotlines. How it's been, 22 or 24% increase in the number of calls that are being made. You know, we say a lot, and people are saying a lot, stay well, stay healthy during this pandemic. And those are good words and things that we should really be talking about, but we also have to live them.
Right. Like the British say, stay calm.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And remember that if you're in a pressure cooker, be extra sensitive, especially to partners and kids, to the increased risk of stress and outbursts of violence and or sexual assault. Remember, no one is entitled to sex just because you happen to be quarantined or sheltering together.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
There's this new thing popped up in the news. I guess we could just file it under our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot category. What is micro-cheating?
Oh, micro-cheating is another one of these. Could I quote Bill Maher? Another one of these sort of snowflake characteristics. Apparently, it's another value change as we've crossed generations. It's no longer acceptable to maintain any kind of contact or have any kind of friendship with one's ex. If you're sending texts, if you're tweeting, if you're in any involvement in social media whatsoever with an ex-lover or ex-partner, apparently that's micro-cheating. Right? Okay. And a line that I've heard recently about that was, it's the little sister to emotional affairs. Yeah. To emotional infidelity, which is a whole nother thing that we can certainly take some time in talking about. But apparently that's also on the increase.
Instead of creating new liberal words, how about if it's a macro cheating? How about talking about it?
Right.
How about getting on the same page and finding out if you share value, how you feel about contact with ex-lovers? And why is it such a terrible thing that people remain friends with former lovers, right? We have to cut them out of our lives. That's a big thing for couples counseling. If it's
Yes, it
that
is.
serious an issue, that green-headed monster called jealousy, that someone is going to freak out if their partner is liking a Facebook post and take that as an infidelity.
Right.
Oh boy.
And what I would also ask people to consider is, rather than spend time trying to find a label to put on it, how about you spend that energy finding opportunities to talk to each other?
Yeah.
Right? Might get you a little further. All right. So what else is interesting in the news?
Two other items in the news that just go right to, we will have to bring back soon the return of the Wheel of Outrage. There are two outrageous things in the news. One from George Mason University in Virginia, where a professor by the name of Todd Kashdan has not been fired, but basically, shall we say, neutered.
Well, yes, sanctioned.
Right? A tenure-track professor. Forbidden from teaching undergrads for a couple of semesters and
Forbidden from supervising grad students.
Right. Yeah. Why? Yeah. Because
denied a raise.
He talked frankly about sex to his students, and perhaps the egregious error was talking about his own personal sex experiences.
Right.
Talked to his students about going to a brothel in Germany and such.
And let's be clear as well, the context of all of this was a college-level human sexuality class, and in sharing his own experiences, he was trying to put a context that he thought would be relatable to people in general. Nothing was outrageous. He didn't give any graphic detail. But he was giving a context and trying to relate information in an academic way, but also trying to personalize it a little bit.
Again, the irony of sex talk, going a little too far and talking a little too much about sex.
Right, which for a lot of people is any length and spending any time.
And the last one actually connects to our guest this evening. Jim Zimmerman, a teacher at Archbishop Alter High School in Dayton, Ohio, was apparently, after 23 years teaching and being a favorite of teachers, students and parents alike, was fired for being
pretty suddenly
for being married to a man.
Right.
And of course, the students are signing petitions trying to get his job back. So we will talk to our guest, one of our favorite social justice warriors, the inimitable Richelle Frabotta.
Yes, indeed. Can't wait to speak with her. And, that's going to be really opening up this important door about sexuality and sexual health really is social justice.
Well, we are extremely proud to welcome one of our favorite guests and favorite human beings. Welcome back to Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers, to the wonderful Richelle Frabotta.
Great to see you.
We just touched upon some items in the news, sex in the news, and of course had to include your posting from last week from the horrible treatment of Mr. Zimmerman at Archbishop Archer, is it?
Alter.
High School. Your alma mater, is that right?
Indeed, Indy 1985.
So, sorry about this hitting so close to home, but tell us your thoughts on this outrage.
Yeah, it's such a bummer. I mean, so let me give my cred first, right? So my mom was a sister of Notre Dame. Here she is on the Spanish Steps in Rome. I have a strong, progressive Catholic upbringing. My mom was a total about intersectionality, again, before the word today. And having said all that, I've got 14 years of Catholic education, and Alter was amazing. It was a great 4 years for building my brain. And it was a really nice way to also try to understand community, which is why this is so very painful, right? Because it's not about community. It's about a part of an identity it's a part of a ton of people, right? And, he's certainly not the only gay teacher in Catholic schools.
The tragic message it sends to gay and lesbian and bisexual kids that, once again, they're invisible.
As a productive citizen of this community, and there are lots of communities checking the boxes, this still sneaks up on him after 23 years. And you're right, gosh, Ricky, the kiddos, we've been teaching sex ed a long time. And I remember in the 90s telling every gay kid, just come out. Mm-hmm. And then I started putting it together and I'm like, wow, wait, you come out when you want to. Because this visibility thing is a double-edged sword.
Sure.
And I can't believe I'm saying that in 2020, right?
Yeah. For me, the bigger problem is the reinforcing message that it sends to heterosexual kids and everybody else, which again just reinforces the idea for them that these other people shouldn't be there.
Agreed. So I just was awarded in October money from our county Alcohol, Drug Abuse, Mental Health Services Board to start a program called what I'm calling Visible and Resilient in Community and Self. So it's VNR for short. And our task is to, I'm just going to be casual with my talk. We're wrangling the gay kids, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody who's not identified in the majority, heterosexual or cisgendered, is the crew that we're looking for. And what we've done, especially since we've gone with physical distancing, we've taken our, what was a once monthly in the library meeting for LGBTQ plus youth, and we've made it an online weekly meeting. We have a lesson plan every Tuesday, and we asked the kiddos, what do you guys want? Mental health is next week. Gay history was a couple of weeks ago. Sexual health and wellness came up. Yay.
Yes.
And you know what we talk about every time? We talk about violence and we talk about suicide. And by we, I don't mean the teachers. That's not in our lesson plan, but that's what we also end up talking about. And it's things like this exclusion clause in a contract,
right,
that says, what do you mean hate the sin, love the sinner? That is such a mixed message, right?
Right.
And I'm so tired of kiddos thinking that dying is better than growing up. And we're quoting the same suicide rates for LGBTQ youth that we did 20 years ago.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem, right?
Do you remember before we had marriage equality, those absurd A through H federal guidelines for abstinence-only programs?
We're still teaching them in Ohio.
Quoting from the law, right? Programs must teach young people that sex in the context of marriage is the only expected standard for human sexual behavior.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, the outcome of these messages.
Negligent, that's harmful, it's abusive.
Well, sure. And I think this is where we really see that intersectionality, if you will, of social justice and sexual health by continuing. And I think marginalizing is too weak a word at this point, because it's not just marginalizing, it's actually putting them in harm's way.
I'm thinking of these grown people complaining about 6 feet. Okay, my analogy here is a little weak, but right? We've got grown-ass adults who are choosing not to wear masks, who are thinking about their freedoms and having to stand 6 feet apart. Hello, you don't even know marginalized. Well, and so again, kind of looping back around, because I mean, we could just sit and rip this for days because there's so much here. The hypocrisy is redonkulous, right? And I'm still dealing with dead kids. So not to bring the house down again, but how are we doing this, right? I mean, I know us as sexuality educators, we've been inclusive in our curriculum for a very long time. When someone in the 90s told me, make those teenage girls stop having babies, I was like, well, let me talk to the teenage boys too. Right. And let me throw in some parents here, right? So this idea of not targeting that person as the problem, but understanding community. So I also want to brag, not about me, but our Adamus board here also is invested in lesson plans that I'm writing that are inclusive. So, and again, you guys, this is a no-brainer for us, right? But in behavioral health, in classroom education, it's, you know, it's Susie and John. It's never Juan and Carlos, right? I mean, just to really throw in, you know, Larry, this intersectionality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I should have them done at the end of June. And what we're going to do is Amanda and I in our VNR program are going to get those 6 lesson plans out there. Hopefully we can do it in schools. You know, I'd love to go back to my alma mater
Yeah.
and do a little sex ed. Wouldn't be a
Well,
problem for me.
brings me to another topic I wanted to bring up, and that is your textbook.
Oh yeah.
Which honestly, you know, we've both been at this a long time, you know, going on 30 years or longer for you.
Yeah.
And of course, how many preview or faculty copies of how many sex ed texts we've received over the years. And honestly, I think I might have even said this to the class once or twice over the years. If you can't afford a new textbook, go on Amazon and just get a sex ed text. It doesn't really matter. They're all basically the same.
Agreed.
Until yours came along.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're so
Sorry.
sweet. I'm actually using one of my copies to put my laptop on.
There it is. The
Because what do you do? It's the perfect size, right?
I've never seen a textbook, especially for college students, a sexuality text that not only comes from this social justice angle, but forces students to think in ways way beyond just reading a chapter on STDs and memorizing and getting the quizzes right. I mean, this is a book that changes people. And I imagine the course that's taught along with it, you know, this is the kind of workbook, you know, a living, breathing, certainly not dry and academic book on being a sexually healthy person and a sexually healthy contributor.
I honestly haven't taught out of a textbook for probably a decade and a half. But the textbook I always had in my classroom was way back in the 90s when I started teaching in higher ed as a side gig, right? The only textbook was what is now the Yarber book, Human Sexuality and Diversity in Contemporary America, something like that. Now that was the only chapter that didn't have a separate one for gay. And that's why I chose it. So we talk about distinguishing between the sex ed texts or the sex texts that are out there for higher ed. And so and my co-authors are Fred Peterson and Jill Bly. Both of them are therapists and have different folks that they work with in their services. So between the three of us, we have a pretty huge breadth and depth of populations, experience with different ages, colors, orientations, experiences, right? So that's probably what you're picking up in the text, Ricky, is that we all have this kind of, I mean, you can read a book and then you can be in front of someone who's telling you stuff, and wow, I mean, what the difference is.
Sure.
So thanks for saying nice things. Everybody deserves sexual health, wellness, pleasure, credible resources, right? Access. That's what our values are. So hopefully that came through loud and clear in the textbook as well. I know it comes through when the three of us teach. I know it comes through in our teaching. So
it used to actually piss me off, to be honest with you, how every little thing, if you present it in a certain way, is an aha for a lot of these people. It's like, why is this an aha? You know, why is this so earth-shattering? But it really speaks to what they're not coming in with. I mean, you have had the same experiences, I think, that we have from the standpoint of almost every college student that, you know, is going through the class sort of says the same kind of thing. How come we never got this before? How come this is the first time we're hearing about this?
We get this in high school.
They're mad. They're really mad. They're mad. And I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I wasn't pissed. I'm pissed. I mean, 28 years. I'm tired, you guys. And I mean, and I ain't giving up no time soon. When are people going to have access to what is just basic information about being human, including communication skills, right? Mm-hmm. Including the idea of boundaries. And man, can we talk about power at some point in time?
With that idea of power, you know, women should not be taking classes on sexual self-defense. Women should not be spending all of this time and energy learning how to protect themselves. Men need to learn to stop doing it.
Yeah.
That is where the issue
from
lies.
childhood.
And that's one of the most frustrating things that we have. And I think what we're doing is just reinforcing that the old scripts that men are supposed to be in charge, men are supposed to be the assertive ones, men are supposed to be the ones to make the decisions. And I don't think there are many things out there that bother me more than what I see as this backsliding. We're hitting it. We're hitting it hard. We're hitting it constantly. We're not giving up. But what happens after we're done? We burn out. We're not. What's behind us? We know there are a lot of young people coming into the field, but it really is a systemic thing.
Well, and that's the answer, isn't it, Larry? Because someday I'm just going to be sitting on the beach with a cocktail, and somebody's going to take up this work, right? And actually, I say somebody's gonna. There are several folks that I've been working with at Miami University who are phenomenal. If we have this moment on how to teach what is good praxis, which of course is the stuff that we're talking about inclusion, and we've got pedagogy behind it, which is critical theory and all this stuff about equity, and our stuff is interdisciplinary, right? At this point, I think we're transdisciplinary. And then we add their contemporary lens to it, then, we got fire. So I do think someday we will get to retire because of teachers in my life, probably like Jim.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get pointed in the right direction because of strong values like my progressive mom. I got supported in looking for things, right? So at the very least, in our authenticity as folks who get around, we'll keep putting up signposts, and the folks who can't get what they want in school or should have in school because those people won't let it happen, they're going to see us. They're going to see our signposts. They're going to see our students, and they're going to go, okay, I'm going to go this way. This will be okay.
Tell us the book title once more. The new.
Oh, here it is. The Gender Revolution.
And
Excellent.
New Sexual Health.
Yeah.
Yes.
Frabotta,
sexuality educator and supervisor and trainer extraordinaire. And one of our favorite human beings.
Yes, indeed.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
We will
Love
do
you.
it again soon.
Yes, indeed.
Love
you
you.
too. Be well.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Wow. Well, that's why Richelle Frabotta is one of our favorite people.
Yes.
Friend of the show and regular guest.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully more regular.
Absolutely. Always love talking with, and it's really such important work. And these are the people that are really helping to keep us going and to really keep pushing forward. And what little strides, we've talked about this before, what little strides that we're able to actually make, she is definitely among those that are able to make them. So we really appreciate that, and definitely look forward to speaking more with Richelle as the show goes on.
Yeah, and as a regular theme on this show always repeats, sex ed is not about penises and vaginas. It's about truly social justice. That if we're ever going to be a fair and equitable society, if women are going to have a place at life's table, if any one of dozens of intersectionalities are going to no longer be marginalized and legally discriminated against and fired from their job and sending a message that everybody, all the students in their care are just as vulnerable, right? We will not have a sexually healthy society. Right. And all the usual problems will continue.
Absolutely. Which is why, again, as I said before, we brought Richelle on, sexual health is social justice. It's not even an intersectionality kind of issue that they kind of meet. They are pretty much one and the same.
Absolutely.
Right? Not all social justice issues are sexual, but certainly all sexual issues are an aspect of social justice. And that also means, and is part of our continuing theme, that means everybody has to be involved.
That's right.
That means that we really have to continue to push harder for men to step up,
Absolutely,
Right.
especially men. Men should be in the driver's seat for so many sexual health issues that get passed off as either women's issues, sexual minority issues, or liberal issues.
Right.
Right? Men prevent unintended pregnancies. Men prevent sexual assault and sexual violence most of the time. Right? Men have the most to gain. Heterosexual men have the most
you
to
would
gain
think.
from women who are sexually liberated and uninhibited. You would think, right? They're never out there on the front lines
No.
advocating for sexual health. So, thank you for joining us. Our ongoing theme will always be the same, but we'll be back next week and every Friday at 7 o'clock with whichever of the
That's right.
hundreds of topics that fall under sex talk.
Exactly. And if you have ideas and suggestions, we would love to hear them. So get a hold of us through our Facebook page, or you can email us at sextalksiegelbrothers@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you next week.